Hey, welcome to your local fast food chain. Can I take your order?
Yeah, can I get a double cheeseburger, large fries, some tots, and I guess a diet soda?
Hi, it's Sav and Jess. Welcome to And a Diet Soda, an opportunity for people to celebrate their successes, share their failures, and hopefully give a little advice on all things relatable along the way.
This community is for appreciating the little things and fostering positive mindsets and intuitive thoughts by talking to people, because chances are they've been through it too.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Sav.
And I'm Jess, and welcome to And a Diet Soda, episode 11, Finding Your Zen in a Busy Life.
Today, we're going to be talking with Molly Stevens, a well known photographer who has successfully made herself and her business into a competitive and unique brand, all while balancing her life, travel, family, and most recently, building her dream house in Montana with her husband.
We are so excited to be talking with Molly today. If you talk to anyone, you'll hear that she's an amazing friend, wife, and incredibly talented self-made photographer who actually found that passion in college. Molly prioritizes family values, specializing in wedding photography, and is very health and nutrition conscious along the way. We're very excited to get into it today. So Molly, welcome, and we're so happy to have you.
Hello, it's so good to be here with you guys. It's fun because I met Jess in college, so this feels very like full circle, talking about how my business began and where we're at now. So yes, I'm so excited to be here and thank you for having me.
Oh, of course. We will just get right into it. We want to first talk about how photography became a part of your life. Somewhere along the way of your college career, you found this passion for photography, which of course has morphed into this amazing and successful business. So how did that transition look for you, and changing career paths and kind of realizing that you didn't want to do what you had originally set out for in college?
Yeah, totally. So I did like film photography and a little bit of digital stuff in high school. I mean, I think everybody does like a photography class in high school, but I really loved that. And my dad's always been like pretty into photography too, just like family, like our family documenting through the years. And then in college, I just had like a mid-level digital camera that I think maybe my family gave to me when I graduated or something. And I would just like be like, okay, friends, like let's go take pictures in a sunflower field or something like super cliche. I feel like that was very, earlier 2000s type of vibe. But yeah, just take pictures there. And then I kind of knew like end of junior year, beginning of senior year that I didn't want to be a teacher, which is what I was going to school for. So I was a human development family studies major with a like specialization in early childhood. So I was in the teaching program as well to get my license. And I decided senior year, like, okay, I don't want to do this. I didn't know 100% for sure what I wanted to do if I dropped out of that, but I just knew I didn't want to do it. So I dropped out of just the teaching license portion after the first semester of senior year. So like very end of college, which is kind of funny. And so I still graduated with like my HDFS like development major and all of that, but I couldn't really decide what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be a personal trainer actually. So I did like the whole course, but then I didn't take the test because I was like, I don't know, like this just still doesn't feel 100% right. And I was actually working at a guest ranch in Colorado and I had my camera. So I was like taking pictures again, just of like friends and stuff. And people started asking me what I would charge when I moved back down to like the Front Range. And I realized like, oh, you can actually like make money from this, because I think with any maybe non-traditional career or creative career, you just don't think, or you're not taught that there could be actual like value in that career and you can like actually make money. And, it's not just like the broke artist type of idea or whatever. So I moved back down here after that summer was done and I was nannying and doing photography, and it really just kept growing from there. I think I would have loved being a personal trainer, but I think that that was more of like a hobby for me. And then photography is more of like a career for me, if that makes sense.
It sounds amazing, first of all, but it also sounds stressful for me. How was that to like change your path completely, like at the end of college? Like you go through all this stuff, right? You're learning, you're getting educated, and at the end, you're like, actually, I don't want to do what I've been doing this whole time. What was that like?
I actually don't think it was like too bad. I feel like I wanted to be a teacher because my mom was a teacher before she had my sister. She stopped working after my sister was born. And I just thought like, okay, this is a career that I can do anywhere in the US. Obviously, you might have to like change your certification, but you can do it anywhere. You have summers off. Like, I don't know. I think it was just like a safe choice for me. And some people are super passionate about teaching, and that's amazing, but it's a job that you do need to love to do it. And the Colorado State teaching program is really awesome because they get you in the classroom like as soon as possible, because they want you to decide basically if you want to drop out or not. And so out of, I think there was like 25 girls in my cohort, and I think 3 of us dropped out by the end, just because us 3 were like, we don't love this. Like, we love kids, but we just don't love it. And I talked to the like program director, because second semester of senior year, you do student teaching, which is basically working full time, but you're not like getting paid or anything, as really good practice for people that do want to be teachers. And she was just like, hey, this, if you don't want to be a teacher, don't waste your time, and don't waste, the teacher that you would be working under's time. Like, if you don't want to do this, that's okay. And my parents were like supportive of it. And I think I was more relieved once I made the decision, actually, because I just like did not want to be a teacher. Like, I just couldn't picture myself working that schedule. So once I made the decision, it was definitely a weight off my shoulders. And I guess I just didn't even question if I would be able to do something successfully, because just the way that my parents raised me and kind of the culture I grew up in was just very like non-traditional, I guess, like knowing that you can accomplish anything, even if it's outside the norm of like a 9-to-5 job. So I don't think I really doubted myself, which I think is good. I think if it was me now, I would more, just because I'm, older and maybe not as naive as I was back then. So I'm kind of glad that I just had that, like, I'll figure it out mentality, and it all worked out.
That's amazing.
So good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so impressed with you that you didn't have like a doubt in your mind. There's a lot of people that would, but I think that's really inspiring for people that are maybe like in that position right now, that like, why waste any more time if you know you don't like it? My aunt actually went through a similar thing. She did, I think it was, I can't remember if it was 1 year or 2 years of law school before she was like, I don't want to be a lawyer, and just stopped. Like, what, are you going to waste 2 years? Are you going to waste 4 years and finish it out? Like, you just gotta do what makes you happy. I think that's a really important concept.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of people, I mean, I've heard people even talk about that, like in relationships, like why, like, you're not wasting time, but don't like spend even more time doing something or being in something you don't want to be in, because it's only going to be harder to get out of it. Like, if I had completed that and gotten a teaching job, I think I would have felt way worse, quitting after a year or whatever. So getting out of it when I did was a good call, because I was still young. And I just like, I don't know, maybe I'm like naive looking back on it, but yeah, I don't remember having a ton of doubts. I just knew, even if it was just something like nannying until I figured it out, or working at a gym or working retail or whatever, that I could always go back to school if I did want to get, the licensure part of that. But turns out I did not want to go back to school. So that's good.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's great for people to hear that as well, because I know so many people experience that, and they really do feel alone in trying to figure out what is best for them. So, all right. So with your photography job, especially as a wedding photographer, that comes with a lot of travel, I would assume. So is it as glamorous as it looks, or can it be more stressful than people realize?
Yes, that's such a good question. Obviously, like, there's some photographers that only work in like a certain city or a certain area, but it's becoming more and more popular to like travel a ton. And I have traveled a lot in the past couple of years. I think looking forward into the next couple of years, I'm trying to slow down a little bit, just for that exact reason that you mentioned. Like, it is fun, but it's also stressful. And I haven't had too many like super stressful scenarios, but it's more just like a huge amount of time that you're, dedicating to either flying or driving. It obviously is harder on like your immune system. It wears you down like 10,000 times more. Like, when I have a wedding that's local to me, I'm tired the next day, but I'm home, I'm sleeping in my own bed, all of that. And then I'm on the road. I think I've gotten better at like mitigating the side effects, but it's still like, it's just a lot to handle. But also I love it because I like the, I don't like monotonous things. So I like seeing different places and shooting in different like locations and different weather and all of that. So it's definitely a balance between the two. And I'm trying to figure out what that exact balance is for me.
Yeah, that's got to be hard going to a new location that you've never been to. Do you get there ahead of time and kind of scope it out and see what you want to photograph, or how does that work for you?
It depends. I mean, I look at a lot of pictures like online or like on maps and stuff. If it's a wedding venue, it's pretty like straightforward usually, just like maybe get there like 30 minutes early. If it's like an elopement or like an engagement session, I'll definitely try to go like scout it out beforehand. But it kind of just depends on how much time I have. And I feel like at this point now I'm pretty like confident with like lighting scenarios. Like I kind of know, obviously which direction the sun sets and like if there's going to be shade or how that all interacts. So I think I've gotten it down pretty good at this point.
Nice. I would say that you have too. I refer people to you all the time. I'm like, just look at her photo. It speaks for themselves. Like you're just so, I feel like that's such a big part also of you being so confident with this transition is it was so natural for you. And it's not, of course you had to work hard and take the classes and educate yourself and it all comes with experience. But I think that you have such a natural raw talent for photography and you have such a, like, I don't know, like everyone has their style. But it's just so cool to see like it's just like your calling, I feel like. Yeah, and like with that, there's so much more to your business than meets the eye. I mean, you have all these like little side hustles going on. I remember you had these like community support groups. I remember seeing those on Instagram, and you do photography lessons. You recently created your own clothing brand. So how do you handle all those moving parts of your life, particularly with these community support groups? I feel like that's such a fun way to like interact with the community and get people's advice and give advice.
Yeah, that's definitely a struggle. And I have a hard time with that because I love doing so many different things, but obviously it is hard to keep everything just like organized and straight in your mind. I started kind of that photography group last spring. So it was during COVID and basically because none of us had anything to do, from April or some like March to May or however long that was. So we would basically do like Zoom calls. I think it was like once or twice a week and then do like Facebook groups and like checking in, like question, like kind of like journaling prompts every week and all that kind of stuff. We still have the Facebook group going now, but we aren't doing like weekly Zoom calls just because now, the world's back open and everybody's like busy working, but I'm pretty involved in that. And then like a couple other photography Facebook groups that I'm not like in charge of online, but they're just so helpful. Like I highly suggest if anybody is starting a photo business or really any specific kind of business to find groups, either local, if they're, countrywide, international, whatever, because there's just such an awesome way to get like other people's advice. I mean, I can't tell you how many people in those groups will post like client scenarios or emails that they don't know how to respond to, and people will, reply back with like whole responses because sometimes in the moment, if you're dealing with like a tricky situation, you just don't have the words to answer. You're like, I don't even know how to explain XYZ. And so reaching out into those groups, like I love them. And then, yeah, we started a clothing business also last, I think we started working on it like last April. I feel like that whole last year was a blur. So I can't remember the exact month that we started working on it, but yeah, it's been a fun little side thing. Definitely has to take a backseat to wedding photography because that is such a full-time job, but I love having some different things going because I do get a little bit bored with things. Like I mentioned like 5,000 times, which you guys probably are picking up, that I have a hard time only doing one thing, which is why I could not take a traditional like 9-to-5 route.
Totally. Yeah, that would be really, I'm the same way because I love to do so many different things and it was really hard for me to try to pick one thing. So it resonates with me kind of what you've been through and like trying to figure out your passion. And when you find it, that's amazing. That's like an aha moment. You're like, oh, I finally have made it. I need to be right here where I am. So with that being said, we want to transition into our podcast theme of intuitive eating now. And we feel like you bring such an amazing point of view to this community. So a big part of mental health is fitness and nutrition. And we know that it's been a huge part of your life. So how does your busy travel schedule or even, your photography schedule affect your fitness journey?
Yeah, it's definitely hard, but I think it's one of those things, and I know everybody always says this, so it's kind of cliche, but it really is like, what are your priorities? And I don't have kids yet, but I am married, so that definitely takes up some of my time as well. But essentially, I just prioritize that like any days that I'm home. So I'm typically home 4 to 5 days out of the week. It just depends if my weddings are local or I'm traveling. So, I'm at the gym all those mornings. And then when I'm on the road, even just in the past year, I've really been trying to figure out how I can make being on the road a little less like exhausting and a little bit more routine. So some ways that I incorporate that when I'm traveling, it really depends like where I'm going, what the town situation is. Obviously, some places there's not a lot of amenities, or maybe your hotel doesn't have a gym. But if my hotel has a gym, I'll usually either try to utilize that, or if I have a little bit extra time, I'm in like a fun location, I'll go find a local gym there, just call ahead and make sure that they have day passes. Most do, which is like awesome, even during COVID. And then another like really simple way to just like increase movement when traveling is just getting up and going for a walk, because I feel like that's something that I started doing during COVID when like the gyms were closed, and it's really stuck with me post COVID. Like even just this past weekend, I was shooting a wedding in Wyoming, and I just got up from my hotel. There was a gym there, but I didn't really want to like go to the gym because it was pretty nice outside. And I just went and got a coffee, and I went on like a 3-mile walk, which was not entirely on purpose. I got lost. I like went the wrong way. I was trying to go to the grocery store to like get some snacks, and I like went the wrong way. So I ended up like a little longer than I was expecting. But even just that, like on, kind of a quote unquote rest day, I wasn't going to the gym, but I was still just like walking, and it just helps your mood. It helps like your mind. It makes your body feel better. You feel more energetic from that. And I've been really incorporating that if I'm not going to a gym on a specific day. Even in Jackson Hole, it was like cold, and I just got up and like went for a walk in the national park in one of the areas that was open, and it was just such an awesome way to start my day. So that's kind of how I've been like incorporating that while I'm on the road. And you can even do like, we have a bunch of like bands that you can attach into like doorways from when the gyms were closed. And so bringing those with you to a hotel, or even doing like a body weight workout, you could, subscribe to the Peloton app, use that for like at home workouts in your hotel room, or even just like doing body weight stuff like on a trail, like if you go on a walk or whatever. But just making that a priority even when you're traveling, like even if you have a long drive, just getting up, even if it's just like a 20-minute walk, just something to increase your steps throughout the day has been like huge for me.
It's awesome because you've clearly thought about this and been through this. You're like, now what it is that you need to be doing. But I have a question, just because as a woman, I kind of sometimes consider, traveling alone. So do you travel alone? Does your husband go with you? And what is like, do you ever get a little worried just, being somewhere alone by yourself, going for a walk by yourself? Just kind of what is that experience like for you?
Yeah, that's such a good question, and something that actually comes up in those Facebook groups I was mentioning, like all the time. Like women are posting about that because it is like a real concern and real issue. Most of the time I am traveling by myself. Every once in a while, Shane will come with me, but I'm by myself most of the time. And it's kind of tricky because I feel personally a little bit more comfortable driving because I can bring like pepper spray and knives and stuff like that. When I'm flying and I'm only carrying on a bag, you are a little bit more limited because you obviously don't try to fly with those things. You will have to away. Don't recommend that. If you're checking a bag, obviously you could check some like protection stuff in there. But I, for the most part, feel pretty safe. I just try, if I am traveling somewhere, it's ideal to get to a hotel before dark so that you feel a little bit safer, like exiting and entering. But if that's not an option, I always like either try to park as close as I possibly can, or bring all my stuff up into my room and then move my car. So it's just me leaving my car to go back to the hotel. Or, I mean, this has only happened like one time leaving a wedding. It was in downtown Denver. It was at night, and I like didn't feel comfortable. So like I had somebody kind of walk me out to the parking garage to get into my car. So don't be afraid to ask if there is someone at the hotel and you don't feel comfortable, ask them to help you. But if I am going for like walks by myself and I am able to, I usually carry like pepper spray and a knife. which to be honest, like the last time I went for a walk, I was more worried about bears because there's like bears in the area than I was about people. So it's definitely like both of those risks I'm always mindful of. But yeah, I just try to, if I'm most of the time not going to put headphones in my ears just because I want to like look alert. I am pretty tall, so that's a little bit of an advantage for me because I feel like I look more intimidating, I guess, but very aware of my surroundings. Always try to have something on me, even if it's just like keys or keychain. Sometimes I'll share my location with my husband or like a family member if I'm going somewhere by myself, just so that they know. Keeping people updated if I'm going, even on like a trail, like a hike, just if I were to get injured, don't have service, you want to let people know where you're going. Always checking in with people like on my route, hey, I'm leaving this town now, headed here, just so that people know where you are, if anything were to happen. But overall, I feel like pretty comfortable, but I definitely also listen to a lot of true crime, so I think about it a lot. Definitely making sure I'm at hotels that nobody is following me to my room, that I'm like, nobody knows what room I'm staying in, or, if I'm meeting people, like I would prefer not to even disclose what hotel I'm at. Just little things like that. But yeah, I try to carry like something with me as much as I can. And if not, then maybe, and if you're not feeling safe, like if you're maybe in an area that you just don't feel comfortable, maybe opt for the hotel workout instead of like walking around, or just stay somewhere, more populated.
Yeah, honestly, I'm super impressed. You're like, oh, I just do a couple things, rattle off like 15 things. That's awesome. It's really important for everyone to think about. I mean, I would love to go hiking by myself more often, but I just like or like camping. I'd love to just like get out of town. I still live in Fort Collins, and I'd love to just like go up to Red Feather or any of these locations and just like pitch a tent by myself for a night and get out of town. But I feel like I can't, which sucks. And I think that a lot of women feel that way. But it's really good that you've like got these routines down and can kind of like keep yourself in check and be aware of your surroundings. I feel like that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. And I like how you brought up the bears too, because I mean, I'm from Colorado too. And we definitely have to be aware of our surroundings, but especially, there's so many animals around that I feel like depending on where people live, they might not necessarily consider that. So that's definitely something to be aware of too.
Yeah, because I see like a lot of photographers will travel to like the Tetons or Montana for weddings, and I don't know if people are like as aware of like the grizzly bears there, because like even I'm going to Jackson Hole in like a month, and like I would love to go hiking by myself there, but that's somewhere that I don't know 100% if I would go somewhere that was I'd probably go somewhere that was like a super touristy area, just because then I wouldn't like really be alone. But I think being really mindful of that, like there's a lot more variables, even weather, like getting stuck in a storm or lightning, the tree line, like all that kind of stuff. So hiking, I'm like a little bit more nervous to do by myself, just because there's so many more variables, especially in an area that I'm not as familiar with, or that has like a lot of grizzly bears. That's why I feel more comfortable like in Colorado, because there's not as much of that. But other areas, I'm like, I don't know, have bear spray, that's for sure.
Yeah, see, that would be my excuse to be like, there's a cloud in the sky. I don't think I can go for a hike. I might as well just watch a movie.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah, just like toss some pizza rolls in the microwave and call it good. Like, I'll see what the weather's like tomorrow. So many people struggle with eating disorders or disordered eating, which are actually two different things. That's actually what I just learned about last week after talking with a dietitian who's another guest on the podcast. And more people struggle with this than we realize until we all start talking about it. And then all of a sudden, everyone's felt really similar feelings. So what has your relationship with fitness and nutrition looked like over the years?
Yeah, totally. So I got really into working out when I got to college, just because growing up, I didn't have like an easily accessible gym like in high school. And I just like rode horses. So I wasn't necessarily playing a sport where I was like in the weight room or had specific workouts to do or anything like that. So I definitely got pretty obsessed with it, I would say. I think kind of reaching ahead, maybe like sophomore or junior year of college, where it was just so all consuming, definitely having disordered eating patterns because I wasn't really educated and I was kind of following different meal plans or just being really restrictive in, what's good and bad food and feeling like very anxious about, missing the gym or not having those specific foods that I felt like I needed to consume, and I wasn't prepping for anything. I wasn't an athlete, but I was, bringing meals to teaching program parties and that kind of thing, and just being so obsessed with just like the way I looked and what I was consuming and the workouts I was doing, and having like great anxiety if I was straying from that. And I would say it got better. I'm trying to think because it's like so long ago now. I'm like college. Well, it wasn't that long ago. It was like 4 or 5 years ago. So it feels like a while ago. I would say honestly, it really got better kind of in like 2018. So like after we had gotten married in 2017, graduated college 2016, got married 2017. I would say like 2018, 2019, that started to definitely shift a little bit as I just learned more about the amount of calories like my body actually needed and what I needed to feel better, to have energy to run a business. I think that my priorities kind of shifted too, because when I was younger, school was fairly easy for me. So I feel like I had time to just like put all my attention and energy onto like what I was eating and working out and stuff like that. But as I built a business, I just realized like I simply don't have time to be completely obsessed with both of those things. So that actually really helped me kind of transition into a healthier mindset with all of that. Obviously still working out and eating well are like really important to me. And it's still something that I like definitely battle and like always feel like I'm getting like pulled back into like my old behaviors. But having something else that I'm passionate about and focusing on and realizing like I can't be so rigid with my food and my working out if I want to be able to travel to work, or if I want to enjoy life in general and be able to like go get frozen yogurt or eat dessert at a wedding and not feel like terrible about it. So yeah, it's really gotten better over the years for sure, but it's just one of those things that with social media, it's so easy to get pulled back into. That I think what you guys are talking about is really important, because people can realize that there's better ways to do things and healthier ways to have that relationship with, working out and eating and all of that.
Yeah, I know. I bet at weddings, you're like, I wish I brought my own food.
Yes. And luckily, like, I feel like wedding food's actually like fairly healthy and good. And I always do bring, well, for the most part, I always have like snacks with me, just because even though sometimes I forget to eat them because the day can be so busy, but I always make sure to have like a really awesome breakfast and then some snacks just throughout the day, because I get really hungry since I do like exercise and my body's used to eating. If I like don't eat all day, it's not good. And kind of like my personal way of navigating dessert at weddings is just like trying to listen to my hunger cues. And also, is this something that I'm just eating because it's here, or is it something that I'm actually like excited to try? So some weddings will have like super interesting desserts, and I'm like, okay, obviously like I want to try that, or like I love ice cream, so I'm gonna have that. But if it's just like cake, I'm kind of like, I've been to a lot of weddings at this point. Like I don't need wedding cake, so I try to like balance it and not like force myself to eat it, but also not, deprive myself from having it if I really, really am hungry and want it.
Yeah, I think that it would be really hard for me to be around so many desserts all the time, but I'm sure after being around it often, you're kind of like able to control that a little bit better for sure. So you post body positivity all the time. There's a post in particular that we were talking about where you talked about jean sizes and how you can be all over the place depending on the brand, which if you're a woman, you totally can relate to that. That's such an important concept, that clothing size truly does not matter and that your body can change day to day. So how has your journey of self-love and body image changed throughout the years with all of these different changes in your life?
Yeah, that is hard too, because I feel like since I did lose a lot of weight like in college, that kind of messes with your mindset a little bit, because you realize like it feels good at first, but then you realize that might not be like sustainable, or might not be like your true like adult body. Because what I've realized with myself and then a lot of other people is that you really do go through a change like in your mid 20s, kind of between like, I don't know, when you're 21, you like think you're an adult, but you're like still very young. And I feel like that, that like 18 or like 17 to 22 body is a little bit different for me from like my mid 20s, just kind of coming more into like that adult like woman body, I guess. So that was like a little bit hard, just seeing sometimes like jeans not fitting, but at the same point like realizing, okay, I'm putting in the work to gain muscle, and when you gain muscle, that's going to come with probably increasing clothing sizes, especially jeans, since they're restrictive on your body, and like where you're gaining muscle is really going to affect how those fit. So I've kind of just gotten a little bit more comfortable with that, also recognizing that I'm 5'9", and that's something that I've also struggled with just over the years, always feeling like bigger and taller than a lot of other females. And I've realized that I'm definitely not alone in that. And I was watching a TikTok the other day, and she was like 5'8" or 5'9", somewhere in there too. And she was like, we have to understand that things are like to scale. Like you might have the similar body type as someone that's 5'1", but it's to scale to someone that's 5'9". So keeping that in mind and realizing like I can be fit and athletic, but I'm 5'9", so I might be a size 8 versus a size 2 or whatever that looks like. And obviously there's people that are super tall and super thin too, and that might be their body type, but that just isn't mine like naturally. And trying to force my body into that really is just like not ideal. But even with like jean sizes, I was just telling Shane, like I had these pair of Levi's and they're like a 28 and they fit me, but they're just really like a not stretchy material. And I wanted a pair of black jeans. So I was like, okay, I'll just buy these jeans in black, but a size bigger. And they were like, they fit smaller than the 28. And then I got them in a 30, which there's nothing wrong with size 30, but I just like, none of my other clothes are a size 30 and they fit the same as a 28. And I was like, what the heck? Clearly this isn't just like me. This is like a, clothing brand size color issue. So just like letting go more of what size I think I should be, and just knowing that I'm like athletic and strong, and it's not defining, I guess, how like good I look depending on my size, but it is still something that's super hard. And I think especially being tall, if there's anybody tall like listening to this, it's just like a really big struggle being a tall female. Even like my shoe size is bigger, like everything I feel like is bigger. And it's just something that I feel like as you get older, you just gain more wisdom about, and you just get more comfortable and don't put as much pressure on just like the sizing. But then it's also confusing because I'm still a size small in workout pants. So I don't know how all of that works out. But
Yeah. And there's so much to unpack with what you just said, because I mean, I feel like I don't know, I guess the three of us can relate, and it's not the same for everybody, but I was like the best shape of my life in college. And Jess explained earlier in the podcast how she's like was able to exercise daily, and that was a priority. And then, you get into this womanhood and you're like, I never would have thought that college body would have been better than adult body. Like I always thought I was going to gain all this weight in college and be, drinking and eating all this dorm food. But it was really a hard transition to recognize like, oh, your body is changing. I experienced the same thing, like mid 20s, as you start to like get through your late 20s, there's a lot happening in the female body. So I really love that you spoke about that, because we've definitely experienced that too.
Yeah, it's just like a weird time that no one talks about, because you're still like young and you're not, menopausal. I don't know if my metabolism has necessarily changed that much, but I just think like my overall like body structure has, like, I feel like my shoulders are like wider. I have more muscle than I did in college, but yeah, it's just like a totally like weird little mid thing. Like a lot of us haven't had kids, but we're like not in college. So it's just like, what the heck? And there's still like, obviously don't get discouraged if you're young and listening to this, like you can still have an amazing athletic body in your 20s. Like there's nothing wrong with that. No one's telling you can't. But I think also just recognizing that there are changes that happen like hormonally and just lifestyle, because in college, it's just, for me at least, it was so much easier than like the real world. Like school is very easy for me. I feel like I didn't have to even study or like work that hard at it. And now like, especially working for yourself, like it's an all-consuming like career. Like I am having to put like 95% of my energy into working, and just like kind of accepting that too, and being like, all right, like that's okay. But also, finding ways to make that easier. Like I just picked up some meals from a meal prep lady yesterday, just so that I don't have to like make lunch during the week because I'm busy. And I could probably meal prep them myself, but that's what it is. It's fine. But looking for ways just to like make your life a little bit easier. And I've just like loved doing it on walks and like incorporating that maybe in different ways than I would have in college.
Yeah, no, that's so awesome. I mean, I feel like for the first time, you just like made me remember with this conversation. I feel like for the first time in maybe even forever, I am so excited to go jeans shopping, because I remember hearing all the time, like all throughout your life, you want your clothes to fit you, like don't change you to fit into the clothes. And I remember hearing that, but I don't think I ever really listened until recently. And the biggest, that what I always think about is trying to fit into those stupid Miss Me jeans that have zero stretch at all. And they like literally gave me the biggest muffin top and like actually hurt your stomach after a while, like a full night of drinking, dancing, and like shenanigans. You get home, like, or at least I did, I had like a mark on my stomach from where the jeans were, and that sucks. And so I feel like I had this realization, I don't know, like a couple months ago, where I was like, if I just don't pay attention to the size and just shop for what's gonna look good on me, I'm gonna feel so much better. Like, I don't care what size it is. If it makes my booty look good, I am buying it. I don't care. And so I'm like super excited to go shopping. I have to do like my little summer shop for new jean shorts and jeans. So I'm excited.
Yeah, and Miss Me knows how to make a girl feel bad about themselves. Let me tell you. In high school, I would like, all the girls were wearing them. That wasn't even like my style, but you wanted to be cool. And so I go to like Buckle and I'm like shopping, and it's just like, again, nothing wrong with sizes, but I could be like, a size 6 or 8 in Levi's. And then you go to like Miss Me, and I think, they're like size 20, and you're supposed to like add 20 to your size, I think is how you get it. And like a 36, and I'm just like, what? Like, this doesn't even make sense to me. And it really makes you feel poorly. So I stopped wearing that. It's like, I'm not going to do this to myself anymore.
I'm kind of glad. I think they're out of style now. So that's good for all of us. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. I feel like trying on clothes is so stressful, because there was even like a pair of jeans from like last year. Randomly, I don't even like them. I ride in them most of the time. I put them on and they were like, I like could not even put them over my butt. And I was kind of sad about it for like a second, but Shane was like, dude, you've been like trying to gain muscle in your butt and your legs for a whole year. Like, even I could get them over my butt, but like then they were really hard to zip. And he was like, if you gain a ton of muscle, like that's going to impact, even if your waist hasn't gained anything, like that's still going to impact how they zip up on you and stuff. And I think just knowing like, okay, these don't necessarily just not fit me because I've like let myself go, or I haven't been exercising or whatever. Like there's so many factors, especially with jeans, which I feel like is just like traumatizing for females in general, just because all of us are built so differently and different pairs of jeans are cut so differently. And I feel like a lot of jean brands also don't do a good job on showing their jeans on like a wider range of body types and all of that. So yeah, I still kind of hate shopping for jeans, only because some of them, they'll be so cute, like a little crop pair of jeans, and they'll be capris on me. Like they'll be like halfway up my calf instead of my ankle. So I still have a hard time. I feel like you just got to find like your jean brand and style that works for you. And then just like, even the different washes might be different sizes apparently, but just not stressing so much about that number, because if you're confident in it, it's going to look way better on you than you trying to fit into the size that you think you should be in that jean. And it just restricting you, and like you can tell when someone's not like comfortable in what they're wearing. So yeah, just trying to let that go. And that's something that I definitely still struggle with for sure.
But also I think it's so cool because as a photographer, it's your job to make people feel like the best versions of themselves, especially on the most important day of their lives, like being a wedding photographer. And so how do you manage self-confidence with the people that you're shooting? And has that affected like your own self-esteem and self-confidence in any way as you preach this to them? You're like, maybe I should think about that.
Ooh, that's a really good question. Yes, because I have had so many, mostly female clients, but sometimes male clients too, that will express how, like uncomfortable they are with themselves or how nervous they are to be in front of the camera, or, just even making jokes about double chins or things like that, where you can tell it's, trying to be a funny thing, but that they're really like self-deprecating. So it definitely is hard because obviously as a photographer, it's the most fun to photograph someone that's very confident, but in reality, most people aren't used to being in front of the camera. So I think that's a really big skill for photographers. But I think like the best thing that I can do, obviously encouraging while we're shooting, being mindful of angles, because everybody can look unflattering from like literally the most beautiful supermodel in the world. If you're shooting a really unflattering angle, not going to be awesome. So keeping that in mind, and then just being able to like show them the final product. Like I've had so many people actually literally, let me read this text really quick, because I did little like pregnancy announcement pictures, and she was just like, oh my God, these are so amazing. I can't wait for our maternity shoot with you. I'm so happy I'm crying. You always make me feel so pretty when I get my photos back. And that just like makes me feel so good because, especially entering into pregnancy, people might be feeling like not 100% in tune with their bodies or how they're looking. But just being able to show them like the best version of themselves in photos. And I am mindful of like what I show people while we're shooting, because I'll show them the back of the camera, but I also want to show them photos like that's only going to add to their confidence, because I know I've had my photo taken and I could see like 10 amazing ones, but if someone shows me like one really bad one, I'm just like, oh, is that what I look like? Like, oh no. So I try to be mindful of that, like while we're shooting, just so that their confidence builds, because like I said, the more confident you are, like the better the photos are going to look. But it is hard sometimes, like even on my own confidence, because I'm used to really like kind of being hyper vigilant about like how people look, because I want them to like feel good about their photos. So sometimes that is, I am like hard on myself in, I don't know how to explain that, but yes, it is hard for me, but also I think it helps my own confidence because I see how other people can like look in front of the camera and how beautiful they feel. So it's always like a balancing act of like, I'm hyper vigilant about how people look in photos so that I'm harder on myself, but then also I'm encouraging clients because I see them as beautiful even when they don't necessarily feel beautiful, and then I can see their reaction to the photos. So I don't know if that makes sense. It's kind of hard to explain, but
No,
it's something
it totally does. Yeah. I mean, other people are always going to see your beauty easier than you'll see it yourself. That's just a rule of thumb. It's easier for people to see the best in you before you. Like,
for people that are getting married too, I think obviously like choosing something that you feel like the most beautiful in, like outfit wise for your wedding, like dress or suit or whatever you're wearing, I think that is really important, and not feeling like pressured. Like if you know you're going to be really uncomfortable in something strapless, then don't wear something strapless. Like make sure that you find something not to hide anything about your body, but just so that you feel really confident, like on your wedding day or when you're taking photos. Like right now, crop tops are super, super trendy, like anything cropped and short. If you don't feel comfortable in that, don't wear that for your engagement photos. Like wear something that feels like true to you and confident, that will make you feel like super confident in yourself, because that definitely shows through. So if anyone's listening to this that's getting their photo taken soon, don't feel pressure to go with the trends. Make sure that you're going with something that you're going to feel like truly confident in, even if, everyone says to wear like something tight and cropped and you're like, I want to wear a flowy maxi dress because I feel super beautiful in that. Like definitely go with what you feel the best in.
really good advice. Yeah. And for shopping too, like I was just saying how I want to go jean shopping. Like I know that a lot of people can also feel like really insecure when they go shopping, or feel a lot of anxiety around trying clothes on and everything. But just try to remember that there's always going to be something that you feel confident and feel comfortable in. And you just have to, I guess, push past that anxiety. I don't know. Does anyone have any good advice for that? Because I definitely feel it too when I like get a bunch of stuff in the fitting room and you're trying stuff stuff on one after another. Sometimes I get a little sweaty because I'm like, nothing's fitting. I like hate myself. And I feel like everyone goes through that. So I don't know, do you two have any advice or experience with that?
I've totally been in that situation when I'm like in a fitting room and I'm trying things on and nothing fits. I've really tried to do like find brands that I know that I've had success with before and utilize, going to those stores and finding things that I like. And also what I'm trying to do as far as like things with jeans is like I will literally grab like 3 sizes of the same jean and just try not to like let that affect me. And if one is too tight, I mean, I'm half Hispanic, and the more I get into my mid-20s and growing up as a woman, my hips are just like I can literally yank as hard as I want and these pants aren't going to come up. So just trying to like we've said, be okay with the changes and just not beat yourself down in the mirror. Try to like, instead of when a negative thought comes in, I've tried to be like, okay, well, what's something that I actually really like about this? Or what's something that I really like about myself in this outfit? Instead of trying to break yourself down. I know it's hard in those moments, but if you can try to change your mindset a little bit, I feel like that's when you really start to work towards like really loving yourself rather than these little aspects of your body.
Yeah, I feel like I just went shopping in person for the first time like 2 weeks ago because I needed to find something for my sister's bachelorette party because I just haven't been shopping in person for so long. And I think that I kind of just prefer to try stuff on at home because I'm more comfortable at home. And like fitting room mirrors and lighting are just really traumatizing to me. And I feel like I never like the way I look in them. But another thing that actually just came to mind, which I did not do the last time I went shopping, is that I think I need to go or try on clothes only when I'm like, not like done up, but not like this, like just came from the gym, because it's really hard to like imagine yourself wearing like a dress or like a really cute shirt when you're just like very just like grungy, kind of just like chill. So I think the next time I go shopping, I want to have like my hair cute and like some makeup on so I like feel like more like myself or like dressed up, even though I genuinely look more casual like 95% of the time. But if I am going to try on something like cute or fun or for a specific occasion, maybe putting in that effort like for my hair and makeup just so that I feel more confident, even if I do have to try on like a couple of different sizes or what I thought was going to fit like didn't fit or whatever. But yeah, I like trying stuff out at home way more because like I like my mirrors, I like my lighting, I feel more comfortable. So I think maybe that's the whole thing now. Everyone from COVID is just like, nope, I just like to try it on at home. Like I'm not trying on clothes in store anymore.
Totally. Okay, so we have some other questions from viewers and listeners that we just want to ask really fast. So first one is, what is your favorite part of a wedding to photograph?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, I think every photographer would agree that like the couples portraits is obviously like kind of our favorite part of the day because we love photographing two people that are in love. But I think other than that, I would say I really love photographing the getting ready portion because I think that it's just, depending on the day, as long as it's not like too stressful time wise, I feel like it's just like a lot of like really sweet things happen then. I love seeing like, maybe the bride and her mom or whoever is there like helping them, the wedding party, helping them get dressed can be just like super sweet and just like a nice little calm time usually before like everything happens at a wedding. But I also love, like I'm naming all of the different parts that I'm like, I love this. You really like the ceremony because it's a time that I'm not directing at all and I'm just photographing what's happening. Similar to the reception, but I just like the ceremonies because there's a lot of just like little things like you can see like the expressions in the groomsmen and the bridesmaids and the parents, and there's just a lot of like little things happening. Obviously some are like more emotional than others, but I think that's a really awesome time. So I'd say those are probably my favorite parts, but it just really depends on the day. Sometimes the wedding party could be the most fun part because they're super fun. Sometimes that can be the most stressful because you can't find people or people are drunk or nobody's listening or whatever. So in general, definitely the couples portraits, but it kind of just depends on each wedding.
Yeah, nice. That's so sweet. I love it. You're so passionate about it. It's so great.
Did you struggle at all with the stigma of getting married at a young age and balancing a booming business and personal life?
Ooh, that's a good question. I feel like now it's so funny. Like I'm 26, I'm almost 27. I'll be 27 in November. And looking back, I got married when I was 22, almost 23. And now it seems so young, but it didn't feel that young at the time. Like when I have couples that are that young, or like my little sister's about to get married and she's 22, almost 23. I feel like it seems so young, but when I was in it, it didn't feel that crazy. Obviously, like I don't regret it. It's fine. It was a good decision. But I don't really feel like I had too much pushback. Definitely where I grew up, people get married a little bit older. So I was like really the first of like my friends, first of kind of my community, like high school, middle school, like the town I grew up in, definitely one of the first ones to get married. But I don't feel like it was as strange, like in Colorado. Still like a little bit young, but it wasn't like as much of a surprise. But I think that people that know me also weren't that surprised, because I feel like I was kind of the one that they thought would maybe get married younger if obviously I met somebody and was dating somebody. So I don't feel like I actually had any pushback really from anybody. I think the only concern that my parents had with like my career choices, they just wanted to make sure that I was going to be able to like support myself and have like healthcare and all of that kind of like the technical side of things, because as much as they are like super supportive of, you know, non-traditional career paths, I think that that generation came from being really worried about having like enough to survive. And like my mom's a first generation immigrant. So like, I don't know, I think that they were just like wanting to make sure I was going to be like, okay. But then they also trusted me to like be okay. And definitely they didn't put too much pressure on like the traditional marital roles of like husband and wife. But they also knew that like Shane would support me in my career. So I didn't really get pushback, which was nice, but I think that some people probably do. I feel like I do have a little bit of pushback, not specifically from people in my life, but just like being a Christian and kind of the mindset of like what maybe a woman's role would be in life in general. So I'm always kind of like fighting back against that idea a little bit in my own life, but I haven't had anybody like specifically put me down for my choices.
That's awesome. Where is your mom from?
This is complicated. I'll try to keep this really short. Basically, my great grandparents left Russia because of the Bolshevik Revolution. They went to China to escape communism. So like my aunt was born in China. She has a different dad than my mom. And then my grandma, and aunt had to leave China because communism came there. So they went to the Philippines for 3 years because they couldn't come directly to the US because they weren't letting in a ton of immigrants from China at that time. And then the three of them came to California. So my mom has a different dad. So she was born in California, but that side of the family had a really crazy, they're really like incredible, like three women in, you know, the maybe that was like late 40s, early 50s, living in the Philippines, like in a tent for 3 years.
Wow.
Like, that's pretty crazy back then to think about that. So yeah, kind of a unique thing, but I always wonder if like maybe that kind of had some just impact on like the way people thought about like jobs and stuff like that.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, you've got like badass women in your blood, so.
Apparently, I'm like, wow, thinking about that now, I'm just like, that's crazy that they, you know, back then figured out how to get here from there and survive by themselves, because my great grandpa died in China, and then obviously my grandma got divorced, so I think he did come to the US eventually too, but I don't think he was with them at that time. So kind of crazy, but yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy to see the difference in just like 1 or 2 generations too. My mom's side all came from Mexico or Spain, and just the lives that my grandma lived, and even my mom. I mean, just to see where my cousins and I, my siblings and I are able to live. I mean, the sacrifices that they've made for their children to have better lives, that alone like inspires me every day to just like chase my dreams, because that's what they fought for. They wanted us to be able to not live those same type of lives.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that a lot of times like the generations before us, like our parents, they had much more like traditional jobs, and that allows our generation to then, or like, I guess I'm like a younger millennial, like kind of on that cusp between millennial and Gen Z, but have more of like the entrepreneurial spirit because we had like a little bit more stable upbringing, and then we can kind of like go from there. Because my dad, he had like, his family had some like rental properties and stuff, so he was like a biomedical engineer. sort of would be his technical title, but he also had like rental properties and kind of some other stuff. So I feel like maybe I got that like entrepreneurial spirit from him a little bit because he was always so good with money and investing. And so that's definitely bled into like the way I think about things, but I don't think that I would have been so confident in being like an entrepreneur without my parents like kind of breeding in that like mentality of like you can do whatever you want. And the way that I went to school and like the schools I went to were very like independent focused, I guess. So I think I can't take like full credit. I think obviously I worked hard and, you know, whatever, all that stuff, but also a lot of credit to the way I was raised and kind of like that mindset growing up.
Totally. I love that. I feel that same way.
That's so cool. I never knew that about you, Molly. That's awesome. So our last question from the viewers, they were wondering, so what have you done to further invest in yourself? I mean, I think that there's like something to be said to getting to where you want to be in your career, but then also thinking forward in the future and constantly trying to better yourself, whether that's through classes or workshops or something like that. So what are some things that you do to take yourself to the next level?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I definitely went to quite a few different like business workshop type of things, and have done some different like mentoring things and bought different composition courses from different photographers, and all those are definitely helpful and amazing. One of them did like combust a little bit. There was some drama around one of them. So I would say if you are new to any sort of business, but specifically photography, just be like really mindful of like what you're investing in, because there's a ton of stuff out there, and make sure that you like trust the people that you're learning from and all of that. But those were definitely amazing. But I think also for any kind of entrepreneur, there's so many other ways that you invest in yourself. So kind of like what we're talking about, investing in your health, investing in whatever capacity you can. But for me, that looks like gym membership. That looks like buying, and we spend like a lot of money on food because that's kind of a non-negotiable in our like budget. I would rather buy like less clothes but better food because that's just really like important to me, and I love food. Investing in, you know, depending where you're at, like even like mindset coaches, which is something that I haven't done yet, but definitely know other people that have and have been like interested in it, or like therapy. I've dabbled in that. I haven't really figured out what I want to do with that or where I'm at with it right now. But there's a lot of different aspects to investing in yourself other than just the business tools, because I think being a successful entrepreneur is like connected to all the different things. I mean, everything like mind, body, soul is all connected. So investing in those other aspects and not just business is really important in my opinion, and something that I want to keep, you know, investing in. And, you know, your health and your wellness is like one of the most important things. And it's really hard to have a really good business if those are things that are lacking. So those are kind of just like the priorities for me personally. But even like investing in the way that you look so that you feel confident on a wedding day. So for me, like I just bought a really cute new black dress to wear to weddings. That's like a small investment, but it's going to help me feel confident and comfortable at a wedding. And like got some new shoes, or for example, I like to have my nails done specifically in the summer so that my hands look like clean and professional at weddings. And that's just like a small investment. And it's more like a mindset thing. Like when you look good, you feel good, and then you like perform well at weddings. But yeah, those are kind of like the main ways that I've invested in myself personally.
I love that. I love that. So this week's challenge, we really wanted to keep it close to Molly's life and everything that she's accomplished. So we wanted to challenge our listeners and viewers to take and post a picture that you normally wouldn't post to your feed, or something that's out of your comfort zone, something that may be close to you. This can be an unedited picture or just something that's meaningful to you, and really embrace the things that are close to you in your life and be able to show them on your social media. We're going to do our this or that speed round now. So it's just going to be Jess and I kind of bouncing back and forth a couple of times, and you can choose the first thing that comes to your mind. If you want to go into it a little bit, though, that's all right as well. So Jess is going to start.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Cardio or weight training?
Weights for sure.
Reese's or Snickers?
Reese's or Reese's Pieces.
Natural hair or straight hair, curly hair, whichever your hair is naturally, straight or curly.
This is my natural hair. I would probably say straight, which I know is probably bad and I should leave it natural more often, but it's just easier to manage. Like if I blow dry it like once or twice a week and just leave it straight, as long as it doesn't get wet, it's way curlier than it even looks right now. So I would prefer it straight, but I like my natural hair too. Sorry.
Are you a get things done or a procrastinator?
Typically I do like to get things done, but I procrastinate on things when I feel like anxious or overwhelmed about them sometimes, which I think is kind of part of my like Enneagram, because I'm an Enneagram 3. And I think when you're not healthy, the 3 has behaviors of a 9, which could be a little bit more like, I wouldn't even say that I procrastinate, but I just like, I get anxious about answering a specific email. And so maybe I'll keep putting it off, but in general, getting things done.
Can you explain what that is really fast, just so whoever is listening, if they don't know what that is, maybe they can go find theirs?
Yeah, so the Enneagram is kind of a personality. I don't want to say it's a personality test, but I guess that might be the best way to explain it. But it's just like a set of numbers 1 through 9, and they all have like, you know, negative and positive attributes, I guess, of like your behavior and kind of like why you are the way you are. So definitely look it up. One thing that I've heard though is sometimes the tests aren't accurate because you're answering them to answer correctly and not maybe what's like your true answer. So what I've heard is to read through kind of the healthy and not healthy behaviors of each and see what you resonate with the best. And sometimes, especially if you read the unhealthy traits, it'll help you determine it more, because obviously we all want to be all the positive ones. Like we could probably say like, oh yeah, I have that trait and this trait. But when you read like the really unhealthy behaviors, you could probably determine more like what you are. And it's obviously just kind of like a loose framework because we're all, you know, complicated people and all of that. But I highly recommend it. I used to be super into it. I'm just like kind of into it now. I just kind of like, you know, went through a phase where I was super obsessed, but I still love it. So look up the Enneagram if you're interested in all of that.
Awesome. Okay, so pancakes or waffles?
Probably, I don't know. I always go back and forth on this. Maybe waffles, but I make pancakes more often.
Nice. Lake or beach?
I like literally can't answer this because I love them both for different reasons. I don't know. Well, it's a tie.
Awesome. Jogging or hiking?
Hiking.
Dressing up or workout clothes?
Workout clothes. Always.
Same. I don't know if anyone has said dressing up. Maybe one person has been like dressing up, but that's awesome. Okay. Well, we're wrapping it up now. Molly, thank you so much for being a part of our community here. We love talking with you and getting to know you. And we know people are going to love hearing about what you have to say. As always, thank you to our listeners for tuning in and following along. Everyone's support means so much to us. We love the criticism, the kind words, everything. We just love our little community here. So to become a part of our family and community, join us on Instagram or Facebook at Anna Diet Soda.
You can also find Molly on Instagram. She has several Instagram handles, so I'm going to rattle them off. One is her personal page at Mrs. Molly Stevens. So MRSMOLLYSTEVENS. Is that correct, Molly?
Yes.
Great. You can also follow, and I highly recommend, her photography page. It's absolutely beautiful. And that is at For the West and Wild Photo. And of course, her clothing brand that I had mentioned, super cute. I have one of the cropped hoodies. It's adorable. And that is at Shop Wild Haven. So keep up with her and her antics and all of her posts. You can actually see like a small bragging moment for a second here. Molly was recently featured in People magazine, so that's super cool. But yeah, just keeping up with all of her beautiful photos and her accomplishments. We're so proud of you. Thank you so much for being here and talking with us, and we cannot wait until next time.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It was so fun, and I hope everybody enjoys.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll see everybody next time. See you next week. Thanks for listening. We hope you were able to give yourself a little love today. You deserve it.
Be sure to subscribe to this podcast and check us out on social media for weekly conversations and attainable challenges for your health.